speaking of romance, my next treat is known to stir up passion in even the coldest of hearts. So let's get started. These are my famous chocolate truffles. The way I start making them is we have to make the ganache first. Ganache is usually equal parts of cream and chocolate, but in this case, I'm going to use creme fraiche for it. Creme fraiche is sort of a tart French cream that's been thickened through culturing. So we're going to heat up creme fraiche and flavor it with a little bit of espresso. I have 2 tablespoons of espresso here with 12 ounces of creme fraiche. I'm going to let that come to a boil so that the coffee flavor can infuse into the creme fraiche. If you want to use something else instead of coffee, say you have someone who's not wild for coffee, cinnamon stick would be great. Sometimes I use different kinds of tangerine rind or grapefruit rind, or you can even use tea, which is really interesting. Do a tea infusion into your cream to flavor your truffle ganache centers. I'm going to let that come to a boil and let that coffee flavor seep in. Meanwhile, let me show you how to get the chocolate ready. I'm going to chop up 12 ounces of bittersweet chocolate. I like to use a serrated knife for that. Just kind of shave off the edge of the block to get really nice small pieces of shaved chocolate. Once you've got that all chopped up, just put it in a glass bowl. And the way we're going to melt this chocolate, I love this part of the recipe, is we just pour the hot cream right over the chocolate, and the heat from it is going to melt it. Let's give it a little more time here. The place I learned this recipe, I was so lucky to actually fall upon this. I was in Lyon, and Maurice Bernachon is this famous chocolatier there. And he's very old, he's about 80 years old. He makes all his own chocolates from scratch. And I was getting a tour of his bakery and his chocolate shop. And I go in the walk-in cooler, and he must have had, he had like about 5 different cases all over the walk-in cooler filled with creme fraiche, tub after tub after tub of creme fraiche. It looks like sour cream in a tub. And I said to him, why do you have so much creme fraiche in your fridge? And it turns out that that was the secret to his truffles. And the thing about creme fraiche is when it's cold, it's a solid, but as soon as it hits your mouth, it melts. So it's much softer than butter. A lot of truffle ganaches use butter inside, but I like to use creme fraiche because as soon as it hits the temperature of your tongue, it actually goes to a liquid and it completely melts. So it makes a much more sort of subtle and supple ganache for it. All right, we've got this almost to a boil, and you can see the coffee has sort of colored the creme fraiche. Now, you want to strain those coffee grounds out. So put your strainer right over, and we're going to pour this hot cream right through the strainer to pull out any coffee grounds. And the heat of it is going to melt that ganache. Melt that chocolate. Ready? Pour it over, strain out coffee. There we go. I can smell that coffee. It smells so good. All right. Knock the strainer just to get any, last little bits of cream through there. Perfect. Now, whisk them together. This is going to melt your chocolate. Oh, that smells so good. Whisk them together until it's completely smooth. Now what I do, this is actually an overnight process. Once you've got all the chocolate melted in and you don't see any more chunks, you're going to cover it with plastic wrap and chill it overnight. Find a spot where it's kind of a little cool. Usually in the basement is really a good spot. And chill it overnight, and what's going to happen is it'll set up overnight. That looks perfect. I'll show you when it's set up. Here's what the ganache should look like once it's set up. It's kind of shiny and glossy, but it's set. And I'm going to pipe these onto a sheet pan. Take your pastry bag and put a plain tip, just the largest plain round tip you can find. Throw it in your pastry bag. And then fill this with the ganache. Now what we're going to be doing is piping kind of like Hershey Kisses. Okay, so you're going to pipe like a little teardrop shape, and there'll be a point on the top. Don't worry, that's the way it should be. If you want to put your pastry bag in a measuring cup just to hold it while you're filling it, you can do that too. So bring your collar of your pastry bag up. We're going to pipe out little kisses, but first, remember, little glue in the corners there, just to glue down your paper so it doesn't slide on you. Parchment paper helps them not stick. That way we can get them off the pan easily. So hold your pastry bag up high, and just let the ganache naturally kind of flow out of the bag. Get a little, there, see how you've got points on the top? That's perfect piping. So once you've got a whole sheet pan of those pipes, just put them in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes, and then take them out, and I want you to knock down the points that are on top. Use the palm of your hand and just go over them like this, and just knock down those points. because you're trying to create sort of a little ball or a little truffle shape, which a truffle looks like a little mud ball. That's what you're actually making, like a little dirt ball. You'll see when they're finished that they look like that. So just knock down your points. Once you've got that done, now I want you to put them in the freezer for about at least 2 hours or overnight. If you're going to do it overnight, cover it with plastic wrap first so we don't get a lot of condensation. While these are chilling, I'm going to go to break, and then I'll be right back with more sweet romance. I'm going to finish up these seductive truffles, so stay tuned. Welcome back to Sweet Dreams. I'm cooking up some sweet romance, and chocolate has taken the center stage. I'm going to show you how to finish my famous chocolate truffles. Remember, we made an espresso ganache filling, and these have just come out of the freezer, so they've been completely frozen solid. Also, I've got melted in my pot here 1½ cups of semi-sweet chocolate. I melted it over a double boiler, you know, just barely simmering water, just to keep it gently melting. Let's take that out. And now, here's what you need. Pot of melted chocolate, your frozen truffle centers, and then another sheet pan where our cocoa is going to be. Now, I think it's a good idea to always strain your cocoa. You want to get out any lumps. So just strain it or sift it right onto a sheet pan. And this is where we're going to place our truffles once we've chocolate covered them. And just so you understand what we're creating, a real truffle is a ball. They vary in size from sort of marble size up to golf ball size. And it's actually a mushroom or a fungus that grows underground near oak trees. And the rumor is that the animal that can find them is an animal with a really sensitive nose. So it takes either a pregnant pig or a dog. Sometimes they can train dogs to sniff out truffles. And that's how they find them. They're underground. They got to dig them out. And they're covered with dirt when they first dig them out. So they look like a ball of dirt. So that's what we're creating, is sort of a little round ball. Now, what you want to do when you dip truffles, keep one hand is going to be chocolate covered and one hand is going to be clean, okay? So pick up your truffle with the hand that's going to get chocolate covered, excuse me, the hand that's going to be clean, throw it in your chocolate, and then this is going to get the chocolate covering one. Take your 2 fingers, kind of dip underneath the center, bring the chocolate up over the center, and kind of shake it off, drip, get those drips off, and then let it fall off your fingers onto the cocoa. Let's do another one. Pick up a truffle center, throw it in your melted chocolate, and then get your fingers under it and kind of wipe it off, and then let it roll off your fingers right onto the cocoa powder. Let's do one more. Just a little. Take your fingers, chocolate up over, get it coated well, and kind of shake off the excess. Now, if you don't want to go in there with your fingers, I don't mind doing it. I love it. But there are some other tools you can use. This is a chocolate fork. You can use that for dipping, or there's a myriad of different little tools you can use for kind of fishing out your truffle centers if you don't want to go in there with your fingers. And also, sometimes you can use them for the top of the truffle to kind of mark it with a special mark. Every truffle can sometimes, the different flavors have a different signature mark on top. But these actually, I don't do a mark on top because we're going to roll them in cocoa once they've set up. So you let them set up. The natural coldness from the frozen truffle is going to set that chocolate, and as soon as it's set, just kind of roll your truffles around in the cocoa and coat them. See, and they just get totally coated with the cocoa. That's perfect. Now, these make great gifts for people. What I like doing, either putting them in a box, you could even put them in an ice cube tray and sort of wrap that in some wrapping paper, and they're freezable, so they're a great thing to kind of have around the house and freeze. Oh, here's some here. These look terrific. These look really great. Okay, what did we make today? I made this panna cotta satiny chocolate sauce to go on top, surrounded by berries, just a